Welcome to Create Through Compassion, a journey into the heart of resilience, where we explore stories that prove the human spirit has no limits. In this episode, we'll dive into extraordinary real-life journeys that demonstrate how perseverance can overcome even the most insurmountable challenges. From devastating losses to unimaginable obstacles, these individuals have risen above their struggles, proving that determination can triumph over adversity. Life is unpredictable. It often throws us curveballs that test our limits, pushing us to the edge. But within each of us lies a wellspring of strength, a fire that refuses to be extinguished, no matter how fierce the storm. This is what makes the stories you're about to hear so compelling. They aren't just tales of survival, they're blueprints for thriving, for turning pain into purpose, and for emerging stronger than ever. Today, we'll explore stories of triumph from ordinary people who faced extraordinary challenges. Their journeys will not only inspire you but also remind you of the immense power of hope, grit, and the unyielding desire to rise. So, sit back and prepare to be moved as we take a deep dive into the unstoppable spirit of humanity. Rising from the ashes, rebuilding after devastation for many, losing everything in an instant is unimaginable. But for the Johnson family, it became their reality when a devastating wildfire swept through their town, reducing their home and a lifetime of memories to ashes. The fire left the family with nothing but the clothes on their backs. Their sense of security, comfort, and normalcy was completely erased. Yet, amidst the destruction, they found something else, a renewed sense of purpose and determination. When we stood there, looking at the rubble that was once our home, it was hard to imagine how we'd ever move forward. But I remember looking at my kids, and I knew we had to rebuild, not just for ourselves, but for them. We couldn't let this fire take more than it already had. The Johnsons worked tirelessly to rebuild their lives, starting with small, practical steps. They relied on the kindness of their community, who rallied around them with donations, temporary housing, and support. Slowly but surely, they began to piece their lives back together, brick by brick. Through sheer perseverance, they rebuilt not only their home but also their faith in the power of community and human kindness. Today, their story serves as a reminder that even in the face of unimaginable loss, we can rise stronger than before. Defying the odds, overcoming physical challenges, Daniel's life changed in the blink of an eye when a car accident left him paralyzed from the waist down. For a once active athlete, the loss of mobility was devastating. But what could have been the end of his dreams became the beginning of a new chapter, one defined by grit, determination, and an unbreakable will. There were days when I wanted to give up. Days when it felt like the world had moved on without me. But then I realized that I still had a choice. I could let this define me, or I could redefine what was possible. Daniel discovered wheelchair basketball during his rehabilitation and poured every ounce of his energy into mastering the sport. It wasn't just about playing, it was about reclaiming a sense of purpose and proving to himself that his abilities were limitless. Years later, Daniel became a Paralympic athlete, inspiring countless others with his story of triumph over adversity. His journey reminds us that physical limitations don't define us, it's our determination that truly makes us unstoppable. Failure is often seen as the end of the road, but for Clara, it was just the beginning. An aspiring writer, Clara faced years of rejection from publishers who dismissed her manuscripts as unremarkable. Each rejection felt like a blow, but Clara refused to give up. Every no hurt. I started to question whether I was even good enough to pursue this dream. But then I realized that the only way to fail was to stop trying. So I kept writing. After countless revisions and endless nights of self-doubt, Clara finally received the call she had been waiting for. A publisher had accepted her manuscript. Her book went on to become a bestseller, and today, Clara is an award-winning author who mentors young writers to pursue their dreams, no matter the obstacles. Her story is a testament to the power of perseverance, showing us that sometimes, success is simply a matter of refusing to quit. Embracing new beginnings, reinventing yourself later in life. Robert had spent 40 years working as an accountant, living a life of routine and predictability. But when he retired, he was faced with an unexpected challenge: finding a new purpose. For months, he struggled with feelings of aimlessness, unsure of how to fill his days. I thought retirement would be a time of joy and relaxation, but instead, I felt lost. I had spent so much of my life focused on work that I didn't know who I was without it. One day, Robert stumbled into a local pottery class and something clicked. What began as a hobby quickly turned into a passion. Robert found joy in the creative process, and his work soon gained recognition in local art shows. At 65, he discovered a new career as a ceramic artist, proving that it's never too late to reinvent yourself and find fulfillment. The fight for justice, standing up against injustice. Maya's story is one of courage in the face of systemic injustice. After experiencing workplace discrimination, she decided to take a stand, not just for herself, but for others who couldn't. The fight was long and grueling, filled with legal hurdles and personal attacks, but Maya refused to back down. There were so many moments when I wanted to walk away. It felt like I was fighting an impossible battle. But I kept reminding myself that this wasn't just about me, it was about creating a better future for others. Maya's determination paid off when her case led to significant changes in workplace policies, ensuring fair treatment for employees. Her bravery inspired a wave of similar cases, proving that one voice can spark a movement. Surviving against all odds, beating a terminal diagnosis. When James was diagnosed with a rare, terminal illness, doctors gave him only 6 months to live. Instead of succumbing to despair, James made a choice. He would live every day with purpose, fighting not just for himself but for others with the same diagnosis. James adopted an experimental treatment plan and became an advocate for medical research, raising awareness and funds for his condition. Against all odds, James defied his prognosis, celebrating 5 years of life filled with purpose and joy. I don't know how much time I have left, but I do know this: every moment is a gift. And I'm not wasting a single one. The long road to recovery, overcoming addiction and finding freedom. Addiction is often an unseen battle, one fought in silence, shame, and isolation. Sarah's story is one of the most difficult transformations, overcoming a battle with addiction that spanned most of her adult life. What began as a way to cope with trauma spiraled into a relentless dependency that took everything from her career, her relationships, her health. For so long, I couldn't see the way out. I was in a constant cycle of highs and lows, self-loathing, and distraction. Every time I thought I had a handle on it, I'd slip back deeper into the darkness. Sarah's journey to recovery wasn't straightforward. It involved multiple failed attempts at rehabilitation, setbacks, and even moments where she thought the fight was no longer worth it. But one day, after an arrest and another rock bottom, Sarah made a conscious decision that would change her life. I realized something. No one could save me except me. And if I didn't do it for myself, no one else could. It wasn't easy, far from it. But I knew that if I didn't try this time, I wouldn't have another chance. She committed herself to a rigorous program of therapy, support groups, and finding healthier outlets to deal with her emotions. It was a long and grueling path, but with each day, Sarah regained pieces of herself she had lost. Today, Sarah is clean and sober, and she now runs a non-profit that helps others who are struggling with addiction. Sarah's story isn't just about beating addiction, it's about realizing that we are all worthy of a second chance. Her journey shows that even the darkest days can give way to new beginnings. The unseen heroes, a soldier's return from the brink of war changes people, sometimes in ways that are visible, sometimes in ways that can never be seen. Derek served in a combat zone for years, where each day felt like a battle for survival, not just physically but emotionally. The trauma of war lingered long after he left the battlefield, in the form of PTSD and the weight of what he had witnessed. Derek returned home physically intact, but mentally, he was a shadow of the man he once was. He struggled with nightmares, flashbacks, and a sense of detachment from the life he used to know. The wounds of war were deep, but they weren't always visible to those around him. When I came home, I thought things would be okay. I thought I could just pick up where I left off. But I felt like I was living in two worlds. One was the past, where I had been fighting, and the other was the present, where people didn't understand. I didn't know how to bridge the gap. Derek's path to healing was long and often painful. Therapy, meditation, and physical exercise became crucial parts of his daily routine. Slowly, Derek learned how to confront his trauma, rather than bury it. He became an advocate for other veterans, working with organizations that provide mental health support for those returning from service. His story shows us that healing isn't linear, and it's okay to ask for help when the burden becomes too heavy to carry alone. Derek is a living example that even after the worst experiences, it is possible to rebuild your life, slowly, steadily, and with purpose. Against all odds, a teenager's fight to walk again scene, a hospital room filled with medical equipment. A teenage girl, Emma, sits in a wheelchair, staring out the window with tears in her eyes. Her parents stand beside her, offering comfort, but their faces reflect the concern of a family unsure of what the future holds. At 16, Emma was on top of the world, an aspiring gymnast with a promising future. But one tragic accident during practice shattered that world. A fall from the uneven bars left Emma with severe spinal injuries, and the doctors uncertain if she would ever walk again. For Emma, the diagnosis was devastating, not just because of the injury, but because of what it represented, the end of her dreams. I remember the doctor telling me that I might never walk again. At first, I couldn't believe it. I thought, this isn't my life. I can't just give up. But there were days when it felt easier to surrender than to keep fighting. Despite the overwhelming odds, Emma refused to accept the limits that doctors placed on her future. She spent hours in physical therapy, pushing herself harder each day. When she could stand, she celebrated. When she took her first steps, she cried, not in sorrow, but in triumph. Emma eventually regained full mobility, and although gymnastics was no longer in her future, she found new ways to channel her passion. She became an advocate for adaptive sports, teaching others that resilience and perseverance can redefine what's possible. Emma's story is one of ultimate defiance against fate. It's proof that we all have the ability to push through even the most devastating setbacks, and emerge not just intact, but stronger. The strength to forgive, a survivor's journey to reconciliation. Forgiveness is not easy. It's not a one-time act but a journey. Laura's story is one of unimaginable pain and the incredible strength required to find peace. As a child, Laura was the victim of abuse. The scars, both physical and emotional, stayed with her for years. For many years, she could not forgive her abuser, nor could she find peace with the past. Anger, resentment, and fear clouded her every waking moment. But as Laura grew older, she realized that holding onto the anger was only poisoning her future. There was a part of me that felt like forgiving him would mean excusing what happened. But then I realized that forgiving him wasn't about him, it was about me. I was the one carrying the weight of all those years of pain. Through years of therapy, soul-searching, and ultimately, a courageous letter of forgiveness, Laura was able to release the pain and let go of the toxic grip her past had on her life. She learned that forgiveness was not a sign of weakness, but one of strength. Today, Laura advocates for others who have suffered abuse, teaching them that the path to true healing comes when we free ourselves from the shackles of anger and resentment. The unstoppable journey. Every person you've met in this journey represents something that we all share, an indomitable spirit. They've fought battles of every kind, physical, emotional, psychological, and have come out stronger, wiser, and more determined to live life to the fullest. They have shown us what it truly means to be unstoppable. The power to persevere is within us all. Whether you're facing the loss of a loved one, the collapse of a dream, a seemingly insurmountable obstacle, or the darkest days of your life, you have the power to rise. The road to triumph may not always be smooth, and the challenges will often feel overwhelming. But it's the journey, the determination to push through despite the odds, that defines us. So, as you take the lessons from these stories and apply them to your own life, remember this: you, too, are unstoppable. Life may challenge you in ways you never expected, but your spirit is more powerful than you can imagine. Keep moving forward, and you will find that no obstacle is too great, no setback too permanent, and no dream too far out of reach. Perseverance and triumph, covering a range of personal journeys and challenges that exemplify the strength of the human spirit. Each story provides deep insights into how individuals from different backgrounds face adversity, overcome obstacles, and ultimately find success, healing, and transformation.